London, 1845. The ballroom of Harwick House shimmered with candlelight, casting golden hues across the marble floors where England's most elite families gathered. Young women in silk gowns twirled like exotic birds in their bright plumage, each hoping to catch the attention of eligible gentlemen. From a shadowed alcove, Olivia Northcott observed the spectacle, her gloved hands clutching her dance card, blank except for the obligatory dance with her cousin. At 23, Olivia had resigned herself to spinsterhood, not from lack of beauty or breeding, but because words failed her when she needed them most. Her amber eyes followed the dancers while she practiced silently, forming the sentence she would need if approached. "G.G. Good evening, my lord." Even in her mind, the stutter caught, tripping her practiced words. Olivia took a deep breath, remembering her governess's stern instruction. Think before speaking, breathe deeply. Speak slowly. Such simple advice, yet impossible to follow when faced with expectant stares and impatient listeners. "There you are, hiding again," came her mother's familiar hiss. Lady Northcott appeared beside her, face flushed from exertion and perhaps too much champagne. "Lord Barrington's son inquired about you. I told him you were merely overcome with the heat." "For heaven's sake, Olivia, you cannot spend another season cowering in corners." "I was not cowering, mother." The words emerged broken despite her effort. Lady Northcott's face tightened. "What have I told you about composing yourself before speaking? You are the daughter of an earl. Act accordingly." She adjusted Olivia's pearl necklace with impatient fingers. "Your sister married at 19, your cousin at 20. Yet here you are, approaching your 4th season without prospects." Olivia swallowed the familiar shame. In her heart, she believed what her mother never said aloud, that love was for those who could charm with clever conversation, who could navigate social waters without humiliation, not for a woman whose tongue betrayed her at every turn. "Lady Northcott, what a pleasure." A stout woman in burgundy silk approached, dragging her reluctant daughter behind her. "And Miss Northcott, still unwed. How patient your parents are." Olivia curtsied, praying she wouldn't be asked a direct question. "Miss Northcott was just telling me she finds the company this season particularly stimulating," her mother interjected smoothly, as she always did. The woman raised an eyebrow. "Indeed." Perhaps she might share her thoughts on the Duke of Queensberry's return to London. They say his years abroad have made him quite unconventional. All eyes turned to Olivia. She felt heat rise to her cheeks as words formed in her mind but refused to come smoothly to her lips. I haven't had the PP pleasure," she began. The young daughter giggled behind her gloved hand, and Olivia saw the flash of embarrassment in her mother's eyes. "My daughter finds gossip tedious," Lady Northcott cut in. "Excuse us, Lady Harwick requires our attendance." As her mother pulled her away, Olivia caught the women's whispers. "Poor thing, quite unmarriageable. What a burden on her family." The words weren't new, but they cut deeply every time. By the end of the evening, Olivia had convinced her mother to allow their departure, pleading a headache. In the carriage ride home, she stared out the window at London's gaslit streets, a single tear sliding down her cheek. "You must try harder, Olivia," her mother said, breaking the silence. "Your father's patience wears thin. We cannot support you indefinitely." "Perhaps I could become a G-governess," Olivia suggested quietly. Lady Northcott looked genuinely shocked. "An earl's daughter working as a governess. The humiliation would kill your father." She shook her head. "No, you will marry, even if we must lower our expectations considerably." Olivia turned back to the window. In her heart lived a shameful secret, a collection of poetry she'd written, words that flowed from her pen without hesitation, verses about longing and belonging. On paper, her voice never faltered, but that voice remained hidden in leather journals beneath her bed, as silent as her hopes for love. The following morning, Olivia sat in her father's study, summoned for what she suspected would be another lecture on her matrimonial failings. Instead, she found him looking unexpectedly animated. Excellent news, the Earl announced without preamble. You've been invited to spend the summer at Thornfield Abbey with your godmother, the Dowager Countess of Westmoreland. Olivia blinked in surprise. But I haven't seen godmother in years. Precisely why she wishes your company. The country air will improve your condition. Perhaps away from London's scrutiny, you might find more confidence. He shuffled papers on his desk. Besides, neighbouring the Abbey is Queensberry Park, the Duke's estate. Indeed, he has recently returned from the continent and will be in residence. Your godmother specifically mentioned introducing you. Olivia felt panic rise in her throat. Father, please, I cannot. The Earl raised his hand. The decision is made. You leave in 3 days. His voice softened slightly. Olivia, you are not without advantages. Your dowry is substantial. You are well educated, and when not speaking, quite pleasing in appearance and manner. Your godmother believes the Duke may appreciate qualities beyond ballroom chatter. Olivia doubted this. Dukes, in her experience, expected perfection. Not girls who stumbled over simple introductions. Still, escape from London's merciless drawing rooms held appeal. 3 days later, she watched the city fade into rolling countryside, her heart both heavy and strangely light. The journals in her trunk were her only comfort, the only place her voice emerged whole and true. Thornfield Abbey rose from the Yorkshire landscape like something from a medieval tale, its grey stone towers and Gothic windows both imposing and enchanting. Inside, Olivia found her godmother unchanged, regal despite her 70 years, with shrewd eyes that missed nothing. "My dear girl," the Dowager greeted her, examining Olivia's face. "You've grown into your features beautifully. Though you look tired, London society can be exhausting, particularly for sensitive souls." "It's good to see you, godmother," Olivia managed, the words less broken in the comfort of the older woman's gentle presence. The Dowager didn't flinch at the stutter, merely linking her arm through Olivia's. "We shall have a wonderful summer. No balls, no pushy mamas, no expectations except enjoyment. Just country walks, reading in the library, and perhaps the occasional neighbourhood dinner." For the first week, the promise held true. Olivia explored the Abbey's extensive library, walked the gardens, and found herself relaxing in ways impossible in London. Her godmother proved a surprisingly companionable presence, never rushing her speech or finishing her sentences. By the 7th day, Olivia's stutter had diminished noticeably in the older woman's company. "You should read to me," the Dowager suggested one afternoon as they sat in the conservatory. "My eyes tire easily these days." Olivia tensed. I'm not good at reading aloud." "Nonsense." "We are alone, and I am hardly going to mock you." She handed Olivia a slim volume of poetry. "Begin wherever you like." Hesitantly, Olivia opened the book. She began falteringly, her stutter pronounced on certain consonants. But as the words flowed, something unexpected happened. The rhythm of the poetry seemed to carry her voice forward, the cadence providing structure that diminished her hesitation. "My dear," the Dowager said when she finished, "you have a lovely reading voice." The stutter nearly disappeared by the end. "Poetry has patterns," Olivia explained. "It's easier than sea conversation." "Interesting," the older woman studied her. "Do you enjoy poetry?" "Very much." "Then perhaps you should join our literary circle. Each fortnight, a small group gathers to discuss books and poetry. Quite informal, just myself, the vicar, Dr. Pembroke, and occasionally the Duke of Queensberry when he's in residence." Olivia nearly dropped the book. The Duke attends a literary circle. Oliver is full of surprises. He spent 3 years in Italy studying art and literature after his father's death, returned quite transformed from the rakish young man who left. The Dowager's eyes twinkled. "Our next meeting is tomorrow." "I've already told them. My goddaughter will attend." Panic seized Olivia's chest. "Godmother, please, I cannot speak before strangers." You won't be speaking, you'll be reading. Poetry, which you clearly do beautifully. She patted Olivia's hand. Trust me, my dear, some voices simply need the right audience. That night, Olivia lay awake, anxiety coursing through her veins. She'd endured mockery from children, pity from adults, and impatience from nearly everyone. The thought of stuttering before a duke, even one with literary interests, terrified her. And yet, a tiny spark of hope flickered in her chest. Perhaps, through poetry, she might reveal a glimpse of her true self, the self that existed in her journals. The literary circle gathered in the Abbey's smallest drawing room, arranged in comfortable chairs around a fireplace despite the summer weather. Olivia entered last, her pulse thundering in her ears. The vicar, a kindly white-haired man, greeted her warmly. Dr. Pembroke, middle-aged with intelligent eyes behind spectacles, bowed politely. And then she saw him, the Duke of Queensberry. Oliver Queensberry defied her expectations of a duke. Tall and broad-shouldered, certainly, but lacking the supercilious expression common to aristocrats. His face held unexpected character, laugh lines around eyes the color of storm clouds, a strong jaw shadowed with the hint of stubble, and dark hair that curled slightly at his collar, longer than fashion dictated. He wore no wig, no excessive jewelry, just a well-cut coat of midnight blue. When he smiled, Olivia felt her knees weaken slightly. "Miss Northcott," he said, his voice deep and melodious, "your godmother speaks highly of you. Welcome to our humble gathering." Olivia curtsied, panic rising. She needed to respond, to acknowledge him with proper respect. She took a breath, preparing for the inevitable humiliation. The dowager's hand pressed gently on her arm. "Olivia has just arrived from London and is still recovering from the journey. Shall we begin with today's selection?" Gratitude flooded Olivia as the moment passed, without requiring her response. They settled into their chairs, and the vicar began reading from Wordsworth. As the afternoon progressed, Olivia found herself relaxing, drawn into the discussions. The Duke proved surprisingly knowledgeable, speaking of poetry with genuine passion rather than academic distance. "Miss Northcott," he said during a pause, those grey eyes turning to her, "what are your thoughts on Wordsworth's connection to nature? Does his perspective resonate with you?" The direct question froze her. All eyes turned expectantly. Olivia felt the familiar tightness in her throat, the words forming but refusing to emerge smoothly. I find his W work." The stutter seemed worse under the Duke's attentive gaze. She saw the flicker of surprise in his eyes, followed by something unreadable. The vicar rushed to fill the awkward silence. "Wordsworth can be quite divisive." Please," Olivia interrupted, surprising herself. "Allow me to try again." She took a deep breath, remembering how the poetry had carried her voice earlier. "I believe W. Wordsworth sees nature as both mirror and teacher. We find ourselves in the landscape, but also transcend ourselves." She'd managed the entire thought, albeit haltingly. No one snickered, no one looked away in embarrassment. Instead, the Duke nodded thoughtfully. "Beautifully expressed, Miss Northcott. I couldn't agree more." His smile held no pity, only appreciation. "Would you perhaps honor us with a reading? Your godmother mentioned you have a particular affinity for poetry." Olivia looked uncertainly at the dowager, who nodded encouragement. The Duke handed her the book, his fingers briefly touching hers, sending an unexpected warmth through her gloved hand. She began reading Wordsworth's "I Wandered Lonely as a Cloud." The first lines emerged broken, her stutter prominent, but as she continued, the familiar rhythm carried her forward. By the final stanza, her voice had found its music, the words flowing with only occasional hesitation. When she finished, she looked up to find the Duke watching her with undisguised admiration. "Remarkable," he said softly. "You bring the words to life." For the first time in memory, Olivia felt pride instead of shame about her voice. The meeting concluded with plans to discuss Byron at their next gathering. As Olivia rose to leave, the Duke approached her. "Miss Northcott, I wonder if you might consider a proposition." Seeing her startled expression, he quickly clarified. A literary one, of course. I'm translating several Italian poems and find myself struggling with certain nuances. Someone with your sensitivity to language could provide invaluable guidance. Perhaps you might assist me. Before Olivia could formulate a response, her godmother appeared beside them. What an excellent suggestion, Oliver. Olivia would be delighted. Perhaps you could begin tomorrow. The lake pavilion would provide a suitable setting, quiet but entirely proper with the gardeners nearby. And so began the strangest courtship in Yorkshire that summer. Each afternoon, Olivia walked the path to the small pavilion overlooking the lake that separated the Abbey grounds from Queensberry Park. The Duke arrived promptly, carrying manuscripts and books, genuinely seeking her opinions on his translations. At first, she could barely speak, communicating through nods and written notes. But gradually, as he showed no impatience with her stutter, she began to voice her thoughts. Oliver proved unlike any man she'd encountered. He never finished her sentences, never looked away in discomfort when she struggled with words. Instead, he waited, his attention unwavering, as if her words were worth any weight. "Why Italian poetry?" she asked him one afternoon, the question emerging with minimal hesitation. Oliver leaned back in his chair, sunlight highlighting the strong planes of his face. "After my father died, I needed escape. England held too many expectations of dukedom, of proper behavior, of continuing the Queensberry legacy exactly as generations before me." He looked across the lake toward his ancestral home. "In Italy, I was simply Oliver, a student of art and literature. No one cared about my title." "It must have been freeing," she said, understanding completely. "It was. But eventually, duty called me home." His gaze returned to her face. "Your godmother tells me you write poetry yourself." Olivia's cheeks burned. "She shouldn't have told you that." "Why not? From what I've seen of your literary understanding, I imagine your work has merit. Words on paper are different. They don't stutter." Oliver studied her for a long moment. "Would you share something you've written? I promise a fair critique, as you've given me with my translations." No one had ever read her poetry. The thought terrified and tempted her in equal measure. "Perhaps tomorrow," she said finally. That night, Olivia selected her least personal poem, a reflection on a winter garden. Her hands trembled as she copied it onto fresh paper, already imagining his polite disappointment. When she handed it to him the following day, Oliver read it silently, his expression unreadable. The waiting felt interminable. Finally, he looked up, his eyes bright with genuine admiration. "This is extraordinary, Olivia. The imagery, the emotional resonance." He stopped himself. "Forgive me, I shouldn't use your given name." "I don't mind," she said quietly, her stutter momentarily forgotten in the glow of his praise. "Your poem captures something essential about beauty in desolation. Have you shown these to publishers?" She laughed, a short, surprised sound. "A woman publishing poetry, an earl's daughter no less. My father would disown me. The literary world is changing. Several women publish under pseudonyms." He hesitated. "I have connections with publishers in London, if you wished." The possibility hung between them, tantalizing and frightening. "I'll consider it," she said. As July melted into August, their literary discussions expanded to include walks through the Abbey gardens, piano duets in the music room, and chess games that stretched into the evening. Olivia's stutter remained, but diminished in his presence. Oliver seemed to draw out her voice, his interest in her thoughts overriding her fear of judgment. One evening, returning from the pavilion, they were caught in a sudden summer storm. Laughing, they ran for shelter beneath a massive oak tree, arriving breathless and damp. "Your hair," Oliver said, reaching to brush a raindrop from a curl that had escaped her bonnet. His fingers lingered near her cheek, and something shifted in the air between them. "Why are you so patient with me?" The question escaped before she could reconsider it. Oliver's expression grew serious. Do you truly not know? When she remained silent, he continued, Your mind fascinates me. Your perspectives on literature, on life, they're unlike anyone else's. When you speak, no matter how the words emerge, they're worth hearing. Most people disagree. Most people are fools. His voice held sudden heat. They miss the person behind the stutter. And you don't. From our first meeting, I saw you clearly, Olivia. Your stutter isn't a flaw, it's merely a different cadence, like a unique meter in poetry. His hand moved to cradle her cheek. May I kiss you? The question stunned her. Even more surprising was her answer, yes. His lips touched hers gently, a brief caress that sent warmth spiraling through her body. When he pulled back, his eyes searched hers for regret or uncertainty. I should not have done that, he said, though his expression suggested no real remorse. I'm glad you did, Olivia admitted, shocking herself with her boldness. The following week transformed their relationship. Propriety remained, her godmother or a servant always nearby, but something unspoken hummed between them. Their discussions deepened, their silences grew comfortable, and occasionally, when no one observed, their hands would touch briefly. Olivia began sharing more of her poetry, each piece revealing another layer of herself. Oliver responded with increasing admiration, both for her work and for her. You've created your own voice, he told her one afternoon as they sat in the Abbey library. One that speaks with perfect clarity on the page. If only my actual V-voice cooperated so well, she said, with a rueful smile. Your stutter has improved considerably, he leaned forward. Have you noticed? She had, though she'd been afraid to acknowledge it lest the improvement prove temporary. It's easier to speak with you. Because I listen to what you say, not how you say it. He took her hand. Olivia, I must speak plainly. These weeks with you have been the happiest of my life. I find myself thinking of you constantly. Your mind, your spirit, your heart, they've captivated me entirely. Olivia's pulse quickened. Oliver, please let me finish. I know our acquaintance has been brief, but I feel as though I've known you far longer. He squeezed her hand. I must return to London next week on business. When I return, with your permission, I wish to speak with your father. The implication struck her with force. You see cannot mean. I very much mean to ask for your hand in marriage. His eyes held both certainty and vulnerability. Unless my feelings are not reciprocated. They are, she whispered, the words emerging without hesitation. But Oliver, have you considered what it would mean? A duchess who stutters. Society would ridicule you for such a match. Let them try, his voice hardened. I care nothing for society's opinion. I care for you, your brilliant mind, your gentle heart, your poetic soul. Tears filled Olivia's eyes. I never imagined anyone would see past my stutter. I don't see past it. I see it as part of you, not defining you, but one element of the remarkable woman you are. He raised her hand to his lips. Will you consider my proposal? Not answer now, but think on it until my return. Olivia nodded, unable to trust her voice with the emotions overwhelming her. Oliver's kiss on her hand sealed a promise between them. That evening, the dowager found Olivia in the garden, staring at the sunset with tears streaming down her face. I take it Oliver spoke with you, the older woman said, settling beside her on the stone bench. You knew his intentions. My dear girl, I've known Oliver since he was in short pants. I've never seen him look at anyone the way he looks at you. She patted Olivia's hand. The question is whether you return his affection. Of course I do, Olivia said, her stutter vanishing in her emotional certainty. But it seems impossible. A duke and a woman who can barely speak in public. The dowager's eyes narrowed. Is that what troubles you, not whether you love him, but whether you're worthy of him? Put so bluntly, Olivia recognized her own prejudice. I've believed for so long that my stutter made me less. And Oliver has shown you otherwise. The dowager nodded approvingly. He sees in you what I've always seen, a young woman of exceptional depth, insight, and courage. Your stutter isn't weakness, Olivia. Consider how much stronger you've had to be, facing judgment at every turn, yet retaining your gentle spirit. The perspective shifted, something fundamental, in Olivia's understanding of herself. Perhaps her stutter hadn't diminished her, but had forced her to develop other strengths: empathy, patience, careful listening. Perhaps it had shaped her poetry, her way of seeing the world. "I love him," she said simply. "Then the path forward is clear, though perhaps not easy," the dowager smiled, "and I shall take great pleasure in watching London society adjust their perceptions." Oliver's business in London was expected to last a week. But 3 days after his departure, a letter arrived for Olivia in unfamiliar handwriting. Inside, she found a folded newspaper clipping from the London Gazette's society pages. The Duke of Queensberry, recently returned from the continent, has been observed in unusually frequent attendance at Thornfield Abbey, home of the Dowager Countess of Westmoreland. Sources report the object of His Grace's attention is none other than Lady Olivia Northcott, daughter of the Earl of Harlington. Lady Olivia, while possessing a substantial dowry and pleasing appearance, is known in London circles for an unfortunate speech impediment that has heretofore limited her marital prospects. One wonders if the Duke's unconventional continental education has affected his judgment in matters of suitable alliance. The clipping was accompanied by a hastily pennied note: "Dearest Olivia, this vile gossip has reached London. Your parents have seen it and are reportedly en route to Yorkshire. I followed directly behind them to ensure you're not pressured against your inclinations. Trust in my affections, which remain unchanged regardless of society's petty malice. Yours always, Oliver." Horror washed through Olivia. Someone, a servant perhaps, or a neighbour, had observed their growing closeness and sold the information to the papers. Now her parents would arrive, embarrassed and angry, likely to demand her immediate return to London. Her godmother confirmed this fear that afternoon when a telegram arrived announcing the Earl and Countess would reach Thornfield the following day. "They'll try to prevent any match," Olivia said, pacing the drawing room. "They'll see this as confirmation of all they've feared, that my stutter makes me a source of public ridicule." The dowager remained unruffled. "Your parents wish to protect you in their misguided way. They fear you'll be married for your dowry, then mocked behind your back. But Oliver would never. I know that soon they will too." The older woman's eyes gleamed with determination. "In the meantime, you must decide what you want, Olivia. Not what your parents want, not what society expects. What will make you happy." That night, Olivia sat at her desk, poetry forgotten, as she wrote the most important letter of her life, to Oliver. In it, she poured out her heart without reservation, her fears and hopes, her love and determination. She wrote of finding her voice through his patient listening, of discovering worth beyond society's narrow judgment. Most importantly, she wrote her acceptance of his proposal, whatever challenges they might face. The Earl and Countess of Harlington arrived the following morning in a flurry of travel dust and parental indignation. Lady Northcott embraced her daughter stiffly before launching into recriminations. "The humiliation, Olivia, to read of your condition in the public papers, and linked to a duke, no less. The gossip is unbearable." Her father's concern was more practical. "The Duke may have been amusing himself with your company, but a marriage offer is unlikely to materialize now that this has become public. We must return to London immediately and manage the damage to our reputation." No, Olivia's refusal silenced both parents. "I beg your pardon," her father said, his eyebrows rising toward his receding hairline. "I will not return to London yet." Olivia took a steadying breath. "The Duke has expressed his intention to speak with you about marriage. His business in London delayed the conversation." Her mother's face registered shock before settling into skepticism. Darling, I understand you might wish it were so, but— It is so, came a deep voice from the doorway. Oliver stood there, travel-worn but commanding, his gaze finding Olivia first, before addressing her parents with perfect aristocratic confidence. Lord and Lady Harlington, forgive my intrusion. I'm Oliver Queensberry, he bowed with precise formality. I intended to call upon you properly in London next week, but circumstances have accelerated my plans. The Earl recovered first, bowing in return. Your Grace, this is unexpected. Not to me, my lord. I've spent the summer discovering your daughter's exceptional qualities, her literary genius, her insightful mind, her compassionate heart. Oliver moved to stand beside Olivia. I came directly from London to ensure no misunderstanding arises from that despicable gossip column. Lady Northcott looked between them, confusion evident. But surely, Your Grace, you understand that Olivia's condition would make the duties of a duchess challenging. Her condition, as you call it, is merely a different manner of speaking. It affects neither her intelligence nor her worth. Oliver's voice held steel beneath its polite surface. I have already requested Olivia's hand in marriage, subject to your blessing. She has done me the great honor of accepting. The Earl's expression wavered between disbelief and calculation. A dukedom for his daughter would elevate their family considerably, yet his concern seemed genuine. Your Grace, while flattered by your interest, we must consider Olivia's happiness, the scrutiny she would face. Father, Olivia interrupted, finding courage in Oliver's presence. I have lived with scrutiny all my life. With Oliver, for the first time, I've found someone who values me completely, stutter and all. The Dowager Countess, who had been watching silently, now stepped forward. Perhaps we should all sit down. I've ordered tea. These matters deserve thoughtful discussion rather than hasty conclusions. The conversation that followed was unlike any Olivia had experienced with her parents. For once, they listened to her rather than speaking for her. Oliver detailed his genuine admiration for her literary talents, even producing some of her poetry, with her permission, to demonstrate her gift. He spoke of his unconventional views on aristocratic responsibility, his plans to use his position to patronize the arts, and his complete indifference to malicious gossip. The tongue will adjust, he said confidently. They always do when faced with determined happiness. Gradually, Olivia watched her parents' resistance fade. Her father, ever practical, could hardly object to a duke as son-in-law. Her mother, seeing Olivia speak with growing confidence in Oliver's presence, began to reconsider her assumptions about her daughter's capabilities. You truly wish this match? Lady Northcott asked Olivia quietly when the men stepped away to discuss settlement terms. More than anything, Olivia answered, the words flowing smoothly in her certainty. Then I shall support you. Her mother's eyes held a new respect, and perhaps learn from your courage. The wedding took place that autumn at Queensberry Park, a deliberately small affair that nevertheless attracted considerable attention. Olivia wore ivory silk embroidered with silver thread, her veil secured with her grandmother's diamond tiara. At the altar, when asked to speak her vows, she felt the familiar tightness in her throat. Oliver squeezed her hand gently. Take your time, he whispered. I'm not going anywhere. Olivia looked into his eyes and found only love there. She took a deep breath and spoke her vows. They emerged with slight hesitation but perfect sincerity. When she finished, she saw tears in her mother's eyes and pride in her father's. Their first reception as Duke and Duchess of Queensberry occurred in London that winter. Olivia entered the ballroom on Oliver's arm, wearing Queensberry sapphires and quiet determination. The initial whispers were predictable: curiosity, some malice, and considerable surprise at the Duke's unexpected choice. Lady Pemberton at 2 o'clock, Oliver murmured with amusement. She's practically vibrating with the need to assess you. Then we shouldn't disappoint her, Olivia replied, her stutter minimal but present. They crossed to the formidable dowager who had once snubbed Olivia at a similar event years earlier. Oliver performed the introductions with pointed formality. "Your Grace," Lady Pemberton said, curiosity overcoming her usual reserve. "London has missed your presence these past months." "I've been occupied with matters far more important than society's calendar," Oliver replied pleasantly, his hand resting protectively at Olivia's waist. The older woman's gaze shifted to Olivia. "And how do you find ducal responsibilities, Your Grace? Quite a change from Earl's daughter, I imagine." Olivia felt the familiar pressure of expectation, the fear of public stammering. But something had changed within her. If this woman mocked her stutter, it would reflect poorly on Lady Pemberton, not on herself. "Transformation often reveals unexpected strengths," Olivia said, her voice clear despite the slight hesitation. "I'm fortunate my husband values substance over superficiality." Lady Pemberton blinked, clearly surprised by the gentle rebuke. "Indeed. Well, I look forward to seeing more of you this season." As the evening progressed, Olivia navigated conversation after conversation. Some stares contained pity, others curiosity, but she met each with the quiet dignity Oliver had helped her discover in herself. When she stuttered, she simply continued, refusing to apologize for her natural voice. Later, at dinner, Lord Barrington raised his glass in a spontaneous toast. "To the Duke and Duchess of Queensberry. May your unconventional union remind us all that true worth often lies beyond conventional expectations." The sentiment rippled through the gathering, shifting perceptions subtly but meaningfully. By evening's end, several women had approached Olivia with genuine overtures of friendship. In their carriage returning home, Oliver lifted her gloved hand to his lips. "You were magnificent." I still stuttered. "Yes," and spoke anyway with perfect grace. His eyes shone with pride. "Do you know what Lord Harwick said to me? That you've made stuttering fashionable. Apparently his nephew, who also stutters, attended his first social event in years because of your example." Tears pricked Olivia's eyes. "I never imagined my greatest perceived flaw might become useful." "Not a flaw, my love, a different voice." Oliver drew her into his arms. "One I intend to listen to for the rest of our days." 1 year later, a small volume of poetry appeared in London bookshops. Titled Different Voices, and published under the name OQ, it received immediate critical acclaim for its fresh perspective and emotional resonance. Only a select few knew the true identity of the poet, the Duchess of Queensberry, whose stutter had once made her believe love and respect lay beyond her reach. At Queensberry Park, in the library where they spent most evenings, Oliver read the reviews aloud to his wife, who listened with her hand resting on her growing belly. "They say your work gives voice to those society has silenced," he said, setting aside the newspaper. "Rather fitting, wouldn't you say?" Olivia smiled, no longer counting her hesitations or fearing judgment. Perhaps those of us with different voices simply need the right audience." Oliver kissed her then, as he did every day, with reverence for the woman who had taught him that love speaks in many cadences, all of them perfect in their authenticity.